When we talk about migration, our minds usually jump straight to politics, right? To headlines and social debates. But what if that's only half the story? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the massive economic engine that's hiding in plain sight, an engine powered by people on the move. And it all starts with one single staggering number.
So let's kick things off. But we're not going to start with people. We're going to start with this number, $831 billion. Now, that's not a company's profits or a country's GDP. It's something much more personal and, as we'll see, way more powerful.
So what is that massive number? Well, that is the annual flow of remittances. It's the money that migrants send back home to their families. And just to put that into perspective for you, it absolutely dwarfs official foreign aid from governments. It's also way bigger than all the direct investment from big corporations into developing countries. It is, by far, the largest single flow of money they get.
Okay, so we have this massive river of cash flowing around the globe. What does that actually mean? It means migration isn't some kind of sideshow. No way. It's a central, structural pillar of the entire global economy. It's one of the main ways our world actually works.
Think about globalization for a second. We've made it super easy for money and products to zip across borders, right? It's practically frictionless. But for people, it's a totally different story. We have walls, visas, all this red tape. And what that creates is this huge inefficiency, a massive economic distortion that affects everyone.
So, with all those barriers, all that friction, what drives millions of people to overcome all that? Well, the answer really turns some of our most common assumptions on their head.
Let's test a big one. You'd probably think it's the poorest of the poor who are most likely to migrate, wouldn't you? I mean, it makes sense. They have the most to gain.
But here's the thing. The data tells a really different kind of paradoxical story. It's something called the migration hump. It turns out the absolute poorest people are often trapped by their poverty. They just can't afford the cost of moving. It's only when a country's income starts to go up a little that people finally have enough resources to actually make the journey. So a bit of economic development, it actually increases migration, at least at first. And the huge magnet pulling people across borders is this concept economists call the place premium. It's a simple but incredibly powerful idea. Your salary is determined more by where you work than by how skilled you are. A bus driver in London isn't magically 15 times better than a driver in Lagos, but because they're plugged into a different economic system, they earn 15 times more. That's the prize. All right, so people are moving to chase that place premium. But what happens when they get to their destination? Let's bust some common myths and look at the real economic data.
So, one of the biggest fears you always hear is that migrants are going to take jobs and lower wages for everyone else. But the data shows something fascinating. For the most part, they are complements, not substitutes. They often fill the labor gaps that native-born workers tend to avoid, which actually frees up and pushes those native workers into better, higher-paying jobs like supervisory roles.
And what about taxes? Well, from a government's point of view, it's a huge net positive. Think about it. You get a young, working-age adult ready to contribute, their education paid for by their home country, they start paying taxes right away. And this is crucial. They are the ones helping to fund the pension and healthcare systems for aging populations.
And it goes way beyond just filling jobs. Migrants are an absolute engine of dynamism. They are far more likely to be entrepreneurs, to invent new things, to hold patents. I mean, just look at the founders of Fortune 500 companies. The numbers are incredible.
Okay, so that's the story in the destination country. But let's flip the coin. What's the economic effect on the countries people leave behind? Is it a pure lifeline, or are there hidden dangers?
We've already said that remittances are a vital lifeline, but there's a catch. A huge chunk of that money gets eaten up by fees. The average cost to send money home is over 6%. That's more than double the UN's global goal. It's basically a tax on the poor, and it means billions of dollars never even make it to the families who desperately need it.
And then there's the classic brain drain argument, right? The idea that a country loses all its best and brightest. Well, that thinking is a little outdated now. The newer idea is brain circulation. Turns out, just the possibility of getting a high-skilled job abroad encourages so many people to get an education that it actually creates a surplus of skilled workers back home. And that's a huge win for the origin country.
But it's not all good news. There's a genuine risk here known as Dutch disease. If a country gets too hooked on those remittance checks, the flood of foreign money can actually make its own currency so strong that nobody can afford to buy its other exports, like coffee or clothes. This can gut its own industries, leaving it with an economy that's really only good at one thing: exporting its own people.
Okay, let's pull back for the big picture. Because this whole economic engine is about to get a massive jolt from two global megatrends that are going to make migration the defining issue of our time.
First up, demographics. We're looking at what some people call a demographic scissor effect. You've got the aging, worker-starved global north on one side and the super youthful, worker-rich global south on the other. It's a perfect storm, a total mismatch between where the world's jobs are and where the world's young people are. And then you layer on top of that the second megatrend, climate change. It's a massive threat multiplier. Projections show it could force over 200 million people to move inside their own countries by 2050. And that displacement is concentrated in regions like sub-Saharan Africa, driven by things like water shortages and crop failure.
So in this new world, economists are starting to look at mobility in a totally different way. It's no longer seen as a failure. Instead, it's a necessary strategy for climate adaptation. It's how people survive and build resilience.
So what do we do? What does a smarter policy look like? Well, it's not about trying to build higher walls to stop migration. It's about managing it smartly. That means creating legal ways for people to move, slashing those ridiculously high transaction fees we talked about, building skills partnerships between countries, and actually planning for climate mobility before it becomes a full-blown crisis.
And really, this gets to the heart of the whole economic story we've been telling. We have to make a mental shift. Migration isn't a problem that we can just solve. It's a permanent feature of our world that we have to learn to manage well. Because honestly, getting this right isn't an option anymore. For every country, for every company, for all of us. Figuring this out is going to be a core competency for just surviving and succeeding in the decades to come.
Which leaves us with one final big question to chew on. As these huge tectonic forces of demographics and climate continue to reshape our planet, is managing the movement of people going to become not just an important economic skill, but maybe the single most important economic skill of the 21st century?